I just took my morning shrooms, starting to come onto them. Watching Greta Thunberg and her flotilla go to Hamas land. Folks. You know, it's funny how, did you see her try to go into Syria or the Sudan the last 10, 12 years to help those folks? No. Why? Because she doesn't give a flying fuck and Jews are not involved. That's number one. Number two, there's 16 million Jews in the world. Okay? There's about 6 million or 8 million that live in Israel. The only Jewish nation. Can somebody please, maybe I'm ignorant, maybe I'm stupid, how do approximately 6 to 8 million Israeli Jews ethnically cleanse? Forget the Palestinians because they're just Arabs. Let's call it what it is. There's no Palestinian people. That's a made-up thing that just happened in the 60s to count. There are no real Palestinian people. There's never been a Palestinian nation. It's a colonial territory. So how do 6 to 8 million Jews ethnically cleanse hundreds of millions of Arabs, the fake Palestinians, the Saudi Arabians, the Syrians, and all these other Arab nations that make up hundreds of millions of people? How do 8 million Jews in Israel ethnically cleanse hundreds of millions of people and commit a genocide against them, other than using a nuclear weapon? This is why this notion of a genocide, the ethnic cleansing of a people. Look, even if every Palestinian got some weird disease and dropped off the face of the earth today, and Israel had nothing to do with it, and even if Israel wasn't to blame, even if all 2 million Gazans just disappeared and another 4 million so-called Palestinians from the West Bank disappeared, or whatever, how many are there? That's 6 million Arabs out of hundreds of millions of Arab Muslims. Can somebody please explain to me how that's ethnic cleansing? That's not ethnic cleansing. First of all, the Palestinians are not an ethnicity. They're Arabs of Egyptian and Jordanian descent. These are just Arabs, folks. Let's look at history. It's funny, people think that Jesus was a Palestinian. The term Palestine didn't even come into existence until 70 AD, when the colonial Romans named it that, after the Philistines. There is no Palestinian people, country, nation. Palestine is a territorial name that both the Romans and the British used. It wasn't even called Palestine prior to 1920. It was called the Ottoman Empire. Then when the British took it over after World War I, they started calling it Palestine. They reverted to using a name that the Romans had given it. Both the English, the British, whatever you want to call them, and the Romans were colonizing that land against us Jews. You're the colonizers. See, everything, Douglas Murray is so right, everything you accuse us Jews of is what you're doing. You're saying it's a genocide? No, you're the one doing the genocide. The genocide is actually Hamas. If Israel laid down all their weapons, Hamas would do a genocide on all the Jews there, and even all the Arabs living there, because they think they're traitors. That suggests starving people? First of all, there's a war going on. Israel is under no conditions or circumstances to give these people anything, any food or anything. Name one war in the history of mankind where the people you're fighting, where you give the civilians of that country food or their military food. It's never happened. But only with Israel and the Jews are they expected to fight their enemies and airdrop them food and deliver them food. Where the fuck? Wait, there's never been a conflict in the world where the enemy fighting their enemies give them food? Why is Israel held to this weird double standard where Israel is required to give their enemy, which is these people who attacked them, fucking food? Let me explain how simple it is if I was in charge. You think Netanyahu's bad? You don't know what I would do. I would drive these people out of Gaza and into fucking Egypt, into the Sinai, because there's like 100 miles between the Rafah border crossing and the Suez Canal. And there's a small Egyptian town, not that small, of about 200,000 people in the northern part of the Suez Canal. Otherwise, the Suez Peninsula. Otherwise, there's nobody in the Suez area. And the Suez Canal separates Egypt from Suez. Not Suez, the Sinai Peninsula, I mean. That's what it is. So, why not just move these motherfuckers into the Sinai Peninsula and rebuild there? Literally. You know? And everybody talks about, wait, how come Egypt's not sending food into there? How come, how come they're not opening the Rafah border crossing to Egypt? How come Jordan's not taking these folks? Because in the 71 or 73, these people tried to overthrow the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan, of King Abdullah. Nobody wants these people. Wait. It's funny. When the Ukraine war started, Poland opened its doors to the Ukrainians, civilians, and everybody around there opened the doors. Germany did, you know. But, and even the UK's been opening their doors in France to these dumbass Muslim idiots. But yet, isn't it funny how there's not one Arab country that wants to take these Palestinians in? What does that tell you? Think about it. What does it logically tell you? It's funny how these American students who are Jew haters are so fucking worried about the Palestinian people, but yet there's not one Arab country that's willing to take Palestinian refugees. Why? Because they're radical Islamic jihadists. And you think Greta Thunberg cares about these people? Watch her interview. She's sitting there laughing on the boat. Wait, since when did an autistic retard like Greta Thunberg have any empathy towards anything? She doesn't. She's a narcissist on a fucking ego trip. She cares about climate change, cares about this. She's an activist because she's a fucking attention whore. She doesn't. Wait, you think she cares about Palestinian people? She doesn't give a fuck about. Greta Thunberg only cares about her dumb, stupid, retarded, autistic ass. She talks like a retard. Well, you can't have climate change. She doesn't. Greta doesn't care about these people. I'm bringing a flotilla ship in, and I've got a box of fucking Band-Aids with me, and like a few boxes of fucking like Cheerios. She's full of shit. Yeah, wait, where was Greta? Wait, how come Greta says not? Wait, have you ever heard the word Sudan or come out of Greta's mouth? Where there's an actual genocide going on? Where there's actually 200,000 people starving with no food, 5 million refugees there? How come none of these great social justice warriors ever mentioned Sudan, Syria, you know, places like Africa where Christians are being killed by these in Nigerian Muslim sand sharks? How come you never hear about that? Simple. Jews are not involved. See, when Muslim kill Muslim, nobody cares. When Jews kill Muslims in self-defense, then all of a sudden people got to jump on the anti-Semite bandwagon. Right? It's almost like, here's what it is. All these Jew haters they couldn't just keep, professing their Jew hatred, so they had to come up with the perfect excuse and scenario to do it under. What's better than this? Now we can say the Jews are starving these people, ethnic cleansing them, and doing a genocide. But we won't say it's Jews. We'll call them Zionists who are doing it. Even though 85% of all Jews are Zionists, so it's the same fucking thing. Now, what's my message here? I pack a 9mm HKP 2000 with 140 grain hollow points, okay? Jacketed hollow points like most are. Okay, I got black Talon rounds in there, which are armor piercing for vests and shit like that. They don't make them anymore, Winchester. So my point is, I'm out here in the Palm Springs area. Bilzerian, Ian Carroll, whatever, Hassan Piker. Why don't you fucking contact me, get your fucking pussy asses out here, and tell me to my face there's a genocide going on. We can have, we can duke it out. We can take our pistols and go off into the wood or the desert and, play who can each other before the other guy each other. Anything you want to do, man. We can go target practice. Where we decide we're going to shoot each other. How about that one? We just go off into fucking Mecca wilderness, and then, we just play, sort of like what the Boy Scouts did, capture the flag, only we're not capturing the flag. We're going to, what, to each other. So, Dan, if you got the balls, Dan's a pussy, though. Hassan Piker, you're half a queer. Ian Carroll looks like he's a non-binary. Candace Owens looks like she came out of a fucking zoo. I won't say which animal she looks like, but if you look at Candace and Myron Gaines together, what do they look like, Romeo? They look like Darwin was right. They evolved from cats. No, they didn't evolve from cats because they don't look like cats. What do they look like? What do they look like? They look like people. But people who evolved from what? That's up to you to decide, But when you look closely at Myron, he had to get a hair transplant because he needed to become more hairy like the primate he evolved from. No, I'm not bigoted or prejudiced. I just don't like Jew haters.